to Brewing Success, where growth is the mission, change is the reward, and progress is the goal. I am your host, Andrea Gebhardt. I'm a former educator turned passionate entrepreneur whose desire to create impact has never wavered. I've spent the last decade teaching, mentoring, and coaching people on how to create success in their lives and businesses with proven strategies and systems that not only bring about change, but big results. When it comes down to it, teaching is my specialty, leadership is my jam, and inspiring you to live a bigger, fuller life is what I'm all about. This podcast will give you the knowledge and tools you need to brew success in almost any area of your life. You're going to walk away each week feeling inspired, motivated, and ready to step outside your comfort zone and into the next level of who you're meant to be. Now let's get into today's episode. Let me start off this episode by painting two pictures of the same morning. In picture one, the alarm goes off. The phone comes up immediately. Notifications, messages, the reflexive scroll that has become as automatic as breathing. 40 minutes pass, the coffee is poured, there's a vague awareness that something important needs to happen today, but the shape of it is unclear because the day has not been designed. It has simply begun. By 10 o'clock, several things have been responded to, a few fires have been managed, and the thing that actually matters, the revenue-generating activity, the creative work, the strategic priority has been pushed to the afternoon. And by afternoon, the energy is lower and the interruptions are louder, and the important thing gets pushed again to tomorrow, which looks with uncomfortable frequency exactly like today. Picture two, the alarm goes off, the phone stays face down, there's a sequence, not elaborate, not rigid, but deliberate, that has been designed in advance and requires no decision-making to execute it because it's been executed enough times that it simply just runs. The priority work happens first in the protected window that exists precisely because it was built into the architecture of the day before the day began. By 10 o'clock, the most important thing is either done or meaningfully underway. The rest of the day manages itself with ease of someone who has already won the morning. The same 24 hours, same responsibilities, same life circumstances in every meaningful respect, yet completely different outcomes. Not because of talent, not because of luck, not because one person is more gifted or motivated or more deserving of progress than the other, but because one of them has a process and the other one does not. Welcome to Brewing Success. Are you guys ready? Here we go. I am your host, Andrea Gebhardt, and today we are talking about the single most underrated driver of consistent progress in the life of an entrepreneur: process. Can't talk about it enough. Process, not strategy, not hustle, not the next big idea. Process, the deliberate, designed architecture of habits and routines that convert your intentions into outcomes, with the reliability of a system rather than the unpredictability of inspiration. Process will always lead to progress every single time. And today I'm going to show you exactly how to build a process that's going to convert your intentions into outcomes. So operating, as you can imagine, without a deliberate process is not neutral. It's expensive. It's expensive in time and energy and the quality of decisions made under the constant, low-grade cognitive load of constantly trying to figure out what to do next. Every morning spent deciding how to structure the day is a morning that could have been spent executing the work that the day was already designed to hold. Every hour lost to reactive firefighting is an hour that was not protected for the proactive work that actually builds the business. The entrepreneur without process, they're not lazy. They're actually often working extraordinarily hard, but they are working in a way that generates activity without generating structure. And activity without structure is the treadmill of the ambitious. It really is. A great deal of effort expended in a direction that keeps shifting, producing exhaustion without the compound progress that a deliberate process would have created over the same period of time. This is the hamster wheel, my friends, that we constantly talk about. And it's because we go about our day trying to figure it out, trying to make decisions, trying to design as we go. We have to be more deliberate than that if we want to convert our intentions to outcomes. A well-designed process is a removal system, and it's going to focus on removing the three great thieves of entrepreneurial progress. The three great thieves. I hope you jot these down. I hope you remember them. You're probably familiar with them. Excuses, wasted time, and decision fatigue. Excuses will dissolve in the presence of a process because process does not negotiate. It doesn't ask how you feel this morning, whether the conditions are favorable, or whether you're sufficiently motivated to begin. It simply runs because it's been designed to run, because it's been practiced enough to become automatic, because it exists as infrastructure rather than intention. I don't wake up every morning intending to go make coffee. It is a process. I get out of bed. I walk out of my room. I walk down the hallway. It's literally the very first thing that I do. Next, I go start waking up the kids. And by the time they're all awake, I get to go sit and have my cup of coffee. It is a process. It does not negotiate. That is how it goes, regardless of what our mornings look like. Wasted time, so the thief wasted time, evaporates when the structure of the day is deliberate. You do not spend 20 minutes deciding what to work on when the work order has already been established. You don't lose the best hours of your cognitive day to low-value tasks when the high-value work has been assigned to the protected window or windows where your best thinking lives. And then decision fatigue, the cumulative erosion of a decision quality that comes from making too many choices across the course of the day. I think decision fatigue, by the way, is something that moms constantly battle on the regular. Can I get an amen on that one? But decision fatigue is dramatically reduced when significant decisions have already been made at the level of process design. What to do first, how long to do it, what to do next. A process answers all of those questions in advance, preserving your cognitive bandwidth for the decisions that actually require it. So instead of like, what should I do? Or I should do this, or maybe no, actually I need to go do it. It's already been decided. The day has already been planned. The windows are already been carved out. You've already time blocked. You've already assigned certain tasks and work to those time blocks. And it's the system in which everything's going to get done. Well, how is this different from a to-do list? It's not just about creating a to-do list, a list of things that you need to remind yourself that need to get done. No, this is a high-level process that allows you, again, the biggest thing entrepreneurs want to do, we want to convert our interest. We want to convert our intentions to outcomes. And process is what makes that possible. Never forget that process is not a constraint on your freedom. It is the infrastructure of it. You cannot build freely on unstable ground. If process is the architecture, then the individual habit is the atom, the smallest indivisible unit from which everything else is constructed. Before you can build a habit stack, before you can design a routine, before you can create the kind of deliberate daily process that compounds into extraordinary results over time, you need to understand what a habit actually is and how it works. Most people think that a habit is just something that you do repeatedly, but a habit is a behavior that has been repeated consistently enough to become automatic, to move from conscious, effortful, decision-requiring part of your brain into the automatic, efficient, energy-conserving part that runs without deliberate instruction. And it's kind of like, to give you an example of those two aspects of your brain, if you were to take a 6-year-old who you just taught how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, it is going to take them time to make the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's the only thing that they're going to be focused on, is taking the lid off the peanut butter, getting out the silverware, putting the peanut butter on, remembering the steps as they go, because it's a brand new process that they just learned. And yes, making a PB&J is a process. And yes, I'm using this as an example. Why? Because we can all relate to it. But then you take a mom who has 3 kids who makes sandwiches like it's her part-time job. She doesn't even have to she doesn't have to think about it. Someone says PB&J, her brain and her body acts without her actively engaging it, which is why she can continue to carry the conversation, do the other things, manage 3 or 4 different things happening around her while making the sandwich. And it still turns out darn good because that process has been repeated so much. It is now a habit, the way in which you do it, how you go about it, all the things. The transition from effortful to automatic is the entire point of what we're talking here. You're not trying to white knuckle your way through the important behaviors every day for the rest of your career. Why? Because that would be exhausting. But what you are trying to do is you're trying to repeat them deliberately and consistently long enough so that they stop requiring effort and start requiring only the faintest cue to trigger. And I get this question a lot because, obviously I've been in my industry for 13 years. I've been leading and mentoring and doing sales really for 13 years. And I will suggest, oh, you should say this, or have you thought about saying that? Or here's what I would say. Like, how does that come so fast to you? I'm like, I've been in so many different conversations so many times for so long that the responses, how I'm going to respond, how I'm going to come back, what I'm going to say, where I'm going to take it, it's automatic. Oftentimes, it doesn't even require much thinking because I've just done it so much. Practice gives you the groundwork for the process. You're trying to really dial in on the power of a habit. And the power of a habit is that it converts intention to infrastructure. It takes the thing that you've decided to do, whatever it is, and it turns it into the thing you simply do. The way you simply brush your teeth, simply make coffee, simply check the mirrors before pulling out of the driveway. There's no deliberation. There's no motivation. You just do it. It's just the automatic execution of a behavior that has been practiced into permanence. Now, of course, we're talking about the day-to-day mundane things, but I also believe that there are positive habits, the way that we talk to people, the way that we show up, our character, all of that, that's all habit forming too. How you respond in situations, it's also a negative habit form too. And a lot of times, we always have that expression that people are always going to show you who they are and you should believe them. Absolutely. Because their behavior is often the habit of the pattern, right? And that pattern's just been existing. And so when we think about that and we think about the power of a habit converting intention into infrastructure, it makes us look around and kind of assess maybe and evaluate all the different habits in our lives. What do they say? What do they show? What are they representative of? Every habit, useful or otherwise, runs on the same 3-part loop. A cue that triggers a behavior, the behavior itself, and the reward that reinforces the pattern and tells the brain the loop is worth repeating. For me, I talk a lot about like some of my new health routines and stuff that I'm doing. I've been, cook dinner, eat with the kids, clean up the kitchen, and then go for a walk for all the health benefits, but also to kind of just have that, hour of just me, myself, my thoughts, my podcast, my music, my dogs, whatever it might be, and get out and get moving. Now, the cue is the kitchen's clean. And this has become such a habit that my dog, my Aussie, Phoebe, she literally waits in the kitchen, waits for me to finish cleaning up. She just watches she's probably encouraging me in the back of her brain. I'm not really sure, but I feel like she looks at me almost like, yes, sweep in that corner, peasant. Allow fresh crumbs to fall, my snacks for the next day. No, but literally, as soon as I'm done cleaning the kitchen, and I hang up the towel on, the little oven door that I like that signifies that everything is clean and done and tidy. I start walking towards my room and she is up right behind me, right with me, or right in front of me because she knows exactly where I'm heading, right? So the cue is being done with the kitchen. That's what triggers a behavior. I go in there, I put on my sneakers. And then she gets all excited. And some days we grab her leash. She heads right to the door. She knows where the bag is, where her leash is. It's hanging on a hook. And she's hyper and crazy and so excited to go. And there's some days where I look at her, I'm like, sorry, sister, it's just me today. It's too hot for you to be walking outside. And she goes and she pouts. But the cue is being done with the kitchen. The behavior itself is going for the walk. And the reward that reinforces this is I feel really good when I come back. I feel like I accomplished something. I feel like I moved my body in addition to whatever I did that day. I released some stress. I balanced my blood sugar post-dinner. And guess what? I'm also sleeping 1,000,000 times better. So that's the reward that reinforces a pattern that tells my brain that this loop going for walks after dinner is worth repeating. So understanding this loop isn't merely academic. It's the practical key to installing new habits deliberately rather than waiting for them to form accidentally. You see, when you design a habit intentionally, choosing the cue, defining the behavior precisely, and building in reward that your brain will actually register as satisfying, you dramatically accelerate the transition from effortful, that little kid learning how to make the PB&J, to automatic. The cue can almost be anything. It could be a time of day, a location, immediately preceding an action, an emotional state, a specific trigger you design for the purpose. What matters is that it is consistent, that it appears reliably enough that the brain begins to associate it with the behavior that follows. The behavior should be defined with enough, specificity that there is no ambiguity about what executing it looks like. The behavior is not work on my content. I'm doing air quotes, by the way. That is a category, not a behavior. Working on content is a category, not a behavior. However, write 500 words of the next chapter. That is a behavior because it's specific, it's bounded, it's executable. The brain responds to clarity. Ambiguity is where habits go to die. The reward, it doesn't need to be elaborate. So many people think that the reward needs to be elaborate. It just needs to be immediate and genuine. The sense of completion when you mark the behavior done, that can be the reward, like going for my walks. The brief acknowledgement of what you just accomplished before moving to the next thing. I have to really work on this sometimes. Like, hey, you got that done. Great. You put it, you wrote, you created, you did this, you did that. Great. It's just acknowledgement of the accomplishment. Way to go. That's enough of a reward. And then you just feel better. It could be a small ritual. The walk, the coffee, the moment of quiet that follows the execution and signals to the brain, that felt good. Let's do it again tomorrow. So for example, last weekend, knowing that I had some time, knowing that we have a very crazy busy month ahead, I wanted to really get ahead of, the show, get really ahead of Brewing Success and the podcast content. And I literally was like, here's my goal. My goal is to sit down, plan, write, create 6 full episodes. And when I am done, I pre-planted the reward, right? When I'm done, I'm going to go sit outside and I'm going to go read my book by the pool. And that's going to be my reward. It's quiet. It's relaxing, a little bit of sunshine, a lot of bit of water because I love the water. And I get to just disappear, take my brain out of things and into another world. That was a reward. So I sat down. I was very deliberate. I got it done. I went and read my book and I got a sunburn and it was awesome. So before you go focusing on building new habits, you need an honest accounting of the ones you already have. Not the habits you intend to have or you think you have, but the ones you actually, observably, consistently perform. Because your current results are the product of your current habits. That one might be a little tough to swallow for some of us. Your current results in your business are the product of your current habits. If the results are good, it's because the habits are good. If the results are poor, it's because the habits are poor. Yikes. Your current results in your health. If your habits when it comes to health are good, then your health is good. If your habits are bad, then your health is bad. If your habits with finances are good, then your finances are good. If your habits with your finances are bad, then your finances are bad. That should be eye-opening. If I'm not where I want to be, it may not be like a talent issue like I talked about in the beginning, or a willingness issue or desire issue or motivation issue. It's a habit issue. And I'm going to have to fix that. Because every gap between where you are and where you want to be has a habit. Every gap has a habit or an absence of one, right? At its root. So if you wished you were more productive, we might have to look at removing the habit of you picking up your phone and scrolling for the first 30 to 45 minutes of your morning. If you are feeling like you're not getting enough me time during the day or disconnection time or destimulation time, you probably should put your phone down at night and not be scrolling for 45 minutes to an hour before you fall asleep. Because even if it feels like you're doing nothing and you're laying in bed, you're scrolling, you're consuming, you're taking in, you're stimulating, you're doing all of it. So we have to take a look at our current habits. And the audit is simple. So here's how you do this. Here's how you audit your habits. For 3 days, track what you actually do from the moment the day begins until the moment it ends. Not what you plan to do, what you actually did. Where the time went. Which behaviors were automatic and which required deliberate effort. Which cues triggered which responses. The data I'm telling you right now is going to be illuminating. And occasionally it's going to be really uncomfortable. Both of those things are useful. Your habits are not your destiny, but they definitely are your default. And your default runs consistently over time. And that's what your life becomes. And that's why we need to do an audit. Because if you're not okay with where you are now, unless you change something, this is where you're going to be 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. It's almost like as if there were a hidden camera in your home and it was displaying your life day to day from beginning to end as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as a parent, in maybe your relationship. Would you watch that footage back and be like, dang, I crushed, I did great, I did this, or like, holy moly, I waste a lot of time. I'm really disorganized. I'm really like all over the place. I think I'm getting a lot done being a multitasker, but I'm actually accomplishing nothing at all. What would you see? What would you change after watching it? You already know. You already know what habits you need to get rid of. What you may have less clarity on is what habits you need to put in place. So when it comes to thinking about that, what habits do I need to put in place? Think to what you want to achieve. If you want to be really healthy, fit, and strong, what habits does a healthy, fit, and strong person have? Every single day, things that they do that are automatic. And then start to incorporate those into your life. If you think about someone who has done very well financially and their finances are all in order, then you have to start to think, what habits must they have? Well, they're not out, blowing money every single weekend on drinks and dinners. They don't have subscriptions to every single streaming service under the sun. They're very mindful and diligent. They budget, right? Like if you see someone who's out there crushing in whatever industry that you're working in, what habits, like think about where you want to be. What habits does that person need to have to be successful at what they do? Write them down, identify them, and start to incorporate them into your life. So now that we can talk about habits, let's talk about habit stacks. And I actually really struggled with even saying habit stacks because stacks are all the things out there, right? Product stacks, pep stacks, life stacks, flapjack stacks. I don't even know, but I'm just using it because it'll be easier for you to understand. Did you hear that? Did you hear that big long inhale? That's because I wish I had taken it out of the episode, but here we are. And you guys know that I don't ever edit anything that we do. You know that, right? Like you get what you get here. This is a real conversation. This is real growth. This is real in the moment. And sometimes there are bird walks and sometimes they are long, but we always bring it back. So a habit stack is exactly what it sounds like. A sequence of habits linked together so that each one serves as a cue for the next. So instead of managing a collection of individual behaviors that require their own trigger, their own effort, their own deliberate initiation, you chain them together in a single flowing sequence that runs on one unified process once the first cue fires. So think about it like the difference between a collection of individual instruments and an orchestra. Hi, I was a band nerd. I played clarinet. Where are my people at? Each instrument can produce sound independently, but when they're arranged, sequenced, and cued together, what emerges is something qualitatively different, a coordinated, powerful, unified output that no single instrument could have produced alone. Your habit stack is your orchestra. Each habit is an instrument. The first cue is the conductor's downbeat, and what follows when the stack has been practiced enough to run smoothly is the music of a productive, intentional, progress-generating day, what I like to call the soundtrack of success. So the framework of a habit stack is built on one of the most elegantly simple formulas in behavioral design. After this, I will do that. After I pour my morning coffee, I will open my priority task and work on it for 30 minutes. After I complete my priority work, I will review my top 3 intentions for the day. After I send my first outreach message, I will send the second. After I finish the second, I will send the third. They're just linked together like a little set of train cars. Each completed behavior becomes the cue for the next. The chain builds momentum with each link. And because the sequence has been designed in advance and practiced into familiarity, the decision-making load of each individual behavior is absorbed by the architecture of the stack rather than the willpower of the moment. This is the design principle that separates high output entrepreneurs from perpetually busy ones. Not more willpower, not more motivation, just better design. A stack that runs because it has been designed to run, not because the conditions happened to be favorable on a given morning, right? It just runs. It's your process. So how should you design your stack? I'm going to give you 3 simple principles. First, you want to anchor your stack to something you are already doing without thinking. So, for example, I already drink coffee every single day without thinking. Yep, and yep. The most reliable first cue is a deeply established existing behavior. Might be your morning alarm. Like I said, your first cup of coffee. The act of sitting down at the desk, anchoring your new stack to an existing automatic behavior gives it a reliable launch point that does not depend on a separately generated motivation to begin. So what is your reliable launch point? What is a habit that already exists for you that we can now stack other habits onto? So second, you want to sequence your stack in order of priority, not in order of ease. And that is always what people do. Like even if you build a to-do list and you know you're guilty, even though you do that to-do list and you probably list the things in priority because that's what your brain tells you to do. It's like, oh, this is the most important thing. Let's put it first, da, 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 da. But then you look at the list and then you choose what's easiest, what's quickest, what's fastest. And we do that because we're human and we don't love resistance, right? That's why we take the path of least resistance. But you want to order your stack in order of priority, not out of ease. The natural human impulse, of course, like I said, is to begin with the comfortable and build toward the difficult, to warm up on the easy tasks and arrive at the more important ones once the momentum is established. And you have to resist that impulse. You have to put the highest priority behavior first in the stack when your cognitive energy is the freshest and the day has not yet negotiated away the time. Distractions have not competed for your attention. Comfortable tasks are always available. Cognitive peak is not. Third, you got to keep the early stack short enough to succeed, right? So like a 6 behavior stack, 6 habits all stacked together, attempted by someone who has never stacked habits before is going to collapse under its own weight within a week. Just begin with 2 or 3 behaviors. Execute them with consistency until the sequence feels natural and automatic. Then add the next link, then build the chain one, the reliable link time, rather than designing, the full orchestra before you've learned to play a single instrument. So, I wake up, I go make coffee, I go wake up kids, I grab a cup of coffee. My next habit stack is when I walk back into my room, my bed gets made. And once I'm in my room, I get ready for the day. So the kids are out getting ready for their day. I'm in here. I say here because, I'm in my studio, which is very conveniently located near my bathroom. But I come in here and I get ready. And when I walk out of my room, I'm dressed and I'm ready for the day. And that sets me up for so much more success because now that I'm ready for the day, I go and I sit down at my computer, I open it up, I take a look at the tasks that I have pre-designed the day before. Here's how much time I have. Here's what I'm working on. Here's what I'm getting done today. And it's set. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to decide. It becomes non-negotiable. There's going to be days when I'm more tired. There's going to be days when I wake up with a headache. There's going to be days when I just don't feel like doing certain things. But because it was already pre-planned, I just show up and do it because I no longer am willing to negotiate with how I feel. That's a part of leadership maturity. That's a part of entrepreneurial maturity, is just knowing that it's got to be done regardless. So you get it done. So for all of my entrepreneurs, all of you guys out there who are building alongside a full life, the ones whose mornings are sometimes captured and overrun by school drop-offs and whose evenings are sometimes the only available window, habit stacking is particularly powerful because it is time agnostic, meaning that a stack does not require a perfect morning. It just requires a consistent anchor. So whether that anchor is 7 in the morning or 10 at night, a stack will run the same way. It's going to produce the same output and and compounds the same progress. You have to be okay with designing it for the life that you have, the life that you are currently living, not the life you wish you had. And then you run it repeatedly until it becomes the invisible engine behind results that look from the outside like they came easily. A habit stack really, it's not a schedule. Like, I want to make sure that's clear. It's not a schedule. It's a sequence. And a sequence practiced into permanence becomes the invisible architecture of extraordinary results. You know, there's a distinction we need to talk about. There's a distinction at the heart of this very conversation that I want to name directly, because it's often the line between the person who has, good habits and the person who has great results. It is the difference between passive process and active process. And a passive process is one that you follow when the conditions are favorable, meaning when you're in a good mood, when you feel great, when you're motivated, when your morning goes well, when the week, does not present unusual demands. It's a process in name only, because what it actually is a collection of good intentions that happen to be honored when honoring them is easy. And when honoring them is not easy, hello life, which is most of the time, in the life of a real entrepreneur with real responsibilities, the passive process dissolves into the chaos of the day, and the good intentions remained exactly that, intentions, not results. So if you are somebody who's like all motivated, but then, you got, something happened, something took place, something went awry, and you just throw in the towel, that's what we talk about passive process. And then all you end up with is like, I meant to do this. And then you follow it by a long chain of but. And that just tells us that the process is weak. An active process is one that you've designed with enough intentionality and protected with enough commitment and practice with enough consistency that it runs regardless of the conditions. It runs regardless of the conditions. I make coffee every single morning, whether it's raining, snowing, I'm tired, I'm not, I'm sick, I'm not. It happens. It gets done. It doesn't, the process, an active process doesn't ask how you feel, and it doesn't check whether or not the morning was ideal, and it doesn't wait for motivation to arrive before it begins. It runs because it's been built to run, because the design, the protection, and the practice have made it more automatic than optional. The shift from passive to active process is the shift from good to great. There are so many of you out there who want to go, you're good. There's so much potential. You are good. But the shift from good to great is going to be you auditing your habits, your behaviors, creating healthy, purposeful stacks, adopting an active process that is going to make that all possible. And that's why so many people stay stuck at good and never go to great, because they get comfortable with good. And it's so sad, because they could be better than great, but they have to want it. You have to want it. So Jim Collins, he wrote the book From Good to Great. In his landmark research on organizational excellence, he identified a consistent pattern among companies that made them leap from good performance to great performance. And they weren't distinguished by more dramatic strategies or charismatic leaders or more favorable market conditions. They were actually distinguished by what Collins called disciplined action, the consistent and glamorous, relentless execution of a clearly defined process over a sustained period of time. Did you hear me, by the way? Consistent, unglamorous, relentless execution of a clearly defined process. The flywheel metaphor that Collins uses in that book, it's very instructive here. Imagine a massive, heavy wheel that requires enormous effort to begin moving. But once in motion, it builds momentum with each rotation until it's spinning with power far exceeding the sum of the individual pushes that started it. It's like a merry-go-round. Like if you have a bunch of kids loaded up on a merry-go-round and you're the one on the outside of it holding onto the bar to go make it spin around and around, those first 5 laps, you're running at a slant. You're digging in with your toes. You're pushing with all of your might. And then it starts spinning, and it holds a spin on its own, and you only have to every so often reach for a bar and push it to keep it going. That's what we're talking about here. That flywheel, that is your active process. The early rotations are going to be hard. The habit is new, the stack is unfamiliar, the routine has not yet found its rhythm, but every time you execute on it is going to make the next one slightly easier. Each rotation adds slightly more momentum, and one day, without a dramatic announcement, without a single defining moment, the wheel is spinning on its own, and the results that looked extraordinary from the outside are simply the product of a process that has been running long enough to compound. Going from good to great isn't a leap. It's a flywheel. And the flywheel is built one active process at a time. So building an active process requires three things that a passive process never, ever demands: a design commitment, a protection commitment, and a recovery commitment. So I'm going to take you through those three. The design commitment means that you spend deliberate time, not a great deal of it, but focused intentional time designing your process before you need to execute it. What habits does your process include? In what sequence? At what time? Anchored to what existing behaviors? The design happens on paper in advance with the same seriousness you would give to any other strategic decision in your business. Literally, Sunday nights, I plan my week. Day by day, project by project, task by task, and every week looks a little bit different because the kids and activities and, other things that we have going on that I've got to work around and build around. So deliberate time actually putting your process design together. Then we have number 2, the protection commitment, which means that you treat the time your process occupies as non-negotiable. Too many people miss this important step. It's not a preference. Working from noon to 3 is not a preference. It is non-negotiable. It's not, like nice to have or not the first thing to be sacrificed when something else asserts its urgency. The most important work of your business happens inside your process. You have to protect it. And protect it from the littlest things. Like literally when I spent last weekend working on creating podcast content, my phone was off. So there were no pings, dings, notifications, anything that could come through that could distract me, take me off task, get in there and interfere with my focus and my flow state, which is where I was. And I'm working my computer. Even my computer's on Do Not Disturb so that things are not coming through. And all I'm needing to do is maybe jump on Google to go research something or go pull a stat or go find a statistic or go look for something that might add value to the episode that I'm creating. But there's no distractions. It's non-negotiable. Friend calls up, hey, I got invited to do a couple of things last weekend. And it was like, hey, we're doing this, or do you want to go here? Hey, do you want to? And I was like, I can't, I've got work. I have things, it's non-negotiable. Would I have rather have went and had dinner with my friends? Yes. Would I have rather gone and done a hike at the beach? Yes. But I didn't because this time is protected and it was dedicated for this moment. And then there's the recovery commitment, which means that you've decided in advance how you return if the process is interrupted, right? And I talk about this a lot in the consistency contract. So if you're not familiar, go back and check it out because we all know that interruptions are going to happen. Life does not pause for process, but a process with a recovery plan survives interruption and a process without one does not. So what are you going to do if you have to go get the kids because they're sick from school? What are you going to do if your dog gets out? What are you going to do if your mom calls and she needs you to run an errand that's really essential? What are you going to do? When there's an interruption that causes you to step away from what you're doing, what does your recovery commitment look like? It looks like the next available time slot that I have, I'm finishing the work. I am getting it done. That's what it looks like. So let me share some steps with you to help you build your active process. So step 1, identify your priority behaviors. So before you can design your process, you need clarity on what the process is designed to produce. What are 2 or 3 behaviors, by the way, not tasks, not projects, but reoccurring behaviors that, if performed consistently, would most directly drive progress towards your most important current goal. These are your priority behaviors. They belong at the front of your process in the protected window before the day has a chance to negotiate them away. So when you think about if you're running a business right now, if you're in direct sales and network marketing and you're building a business, what are your priority behaviors? They are reach outs, conversations, follow-ups, exposures, invitations, not in that order, I realize, but you understand the priority behaviors. That's what we have to identify. That is what you need to do. And if, again, asking yourself, What are 2 or 3 behaviors, not tasks, not projects, but recurring behaviors that, if performed consistently, would most directly drive progress toward the most important current goal? Well, if my goal is to grow my customer base, if my goal is to grow my team, then what are the priority behaviors? What do they look like that I need to be engaging with every single day to make that happen? I hope some light bulbs just went off in the room. It got a little brighter here. I think some did. Step 2, you got to design your stack. So take your priority behaviors and sequence them into a stack anchored on an existing behavior. Write the stack out explicitly. Don't just think about it. You got to write it down. And I want you to do that using the after then formula. So after I do this, then I will do that. After I write my podcast episodes, I will create content for the Instagram page and posts and reels and stories and all the things, right? So assign your stack a specific time window, a protected block in your day that belongs to the process before it belongs to anything else. And it's not just a preference in your calendar, it's a commitment. Block it, protect it, and treat requests for that time with the same response you would give a request to cancel a meeting with your most important client. Or I just had this conversation with a team member the other day. I was like, you have to schedule your success. You have to schedule your work. It's non-negotiable. If do you have a dentist appointment on your calendar? She's like, yeah, actually next week. And I was like, okay, if I'm like, hey, let's have a mentorship call at that time, what are you going to tell me? You're going to tell me you can't because I have a dentist appointment. We need to get better at I can't. I'm focused. I can't. I'm working on an important project. I can't. I have to work. I can't. I need to get this done. I can't. This time is protected. Protect the time just like you would anything else. Step 3, assign time architecture, if you will. So a stack without time assignment lives in the abstract. So assign your stack a specific time window, a protected block in your day that belongs to the process before it belongs to anything else. Right? That's huge. We want to make sure that we're doing that. Step 4, run it for 21 days without judgment. The first 3 weeks of a new process is the formation period, the window in which the stack is transitioning from effortful to automatic. So during this period, the only metric that matters is execution, not perfection of execution, not ideal conditions. Simply, did you run the stack today? Yes or no? Track it visibly, celebrate the yes, return without drama after the no. After 21 days, the stack will have developed enough familiarity to begin carrying itself. And after 60, it's going to feel like something you do. And after 90, it's going to be something you can't imagine not doing. Step 5, you want to audit, adjust, and elevate. So at the end of each month, spend 20 minutes with your process. What's working? What's producing results? What is stalling? What is slipping or simply not fitting the life it was designed to serve? Adjust deliberately. Add a behavior when the existing stack is running smoothly. Remove one that is consistently breaking the chain. Elevate the standard of an existing behavior when the current standard has become too comfortable to produce growth. So your process is not a monument, it's a living system. Tend to it accordingly. It's always going to adjust. You always want to be evolving. You're going to grow to a point where certain things can just go. You're going to come to realizations where you start to see that things just aren't serving you. For this reason, I don't check my email until noon because I will get all sucked up in there trying to look at everything or delete or unsubscribe from a bunch of weird stuff. No, I'll check my email. I don't check Messenger before 10 a.m. Why? Because I know if I get in there, I'm going to try to solve all the team's problems and do all the things. No, I have other work that has to get done first. Before we close, I want to give you 4 questions to sit with and ideally to act on before this day is done because your process doesn't need to be perfect to begin. It needs to begin to become a process, right? It's never going to be perfect. It's always going to be in process and process is always going to lead to progress. So, a couple of questions for you to think about. On your current habits, and this is, if you're leading or mentoring someone, these are great questions to ask them to help you kind of diagnose where you need to help them in these arenas. But if you tracked your actual behaviors for the next 3 days, your actual behaviors, not your intended ones, what would the data reveal about the gap between your default process and the one your goals require? Where is the distance the greatest? So if you're telling me that you want to be successful in your business, and I look at your actual behaviors, and you only actually spent 30 minutes on the things that are going to build your business, and a bunch of other time doing other things, it's going to reveal what? The disconnect. Number 2, what are 2 or 3 specific recurring behaviors that, if you perform them consistently every week, would most directly accelerate your progress goal towards your most important current goal? Are those behaviors in your current process, or are they consistently deferred to later to later? And then on your stack, using the after then formula, write a 3 behavior habit stack anchored to something you already do automatically every day. What is the anchor? What are the 3 behaviors in sequence? What is the immediate reward that follows the final behavior in the stack? And when it comes to passive and active process, just be honest. Is your current process right now passive or active? Is it a collection of good intentions or a designed system that runs regardless of conditions? And if it's passive, what is the one protection commitment you could make today that could make it more active? Design your process, protect your process, run your process, and watch what the compound interest of a deliberate daily practice does to the distance between where you are and where you're going. So I want to close with the most important and simplest thing that I can say about everything that we've covered today. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not a talent gap. It is not a vision gap. It is not a deserving gap. In almost every case, for almost every driven person I have ever worked with or alongside, it is a process gap. A gap between the intentional, active, designed structure of daily behavior that the goal requires. You understand that all goals require behavioral change. And the reason why most people don't reach their goals is because they don't change their behaviors. You have to change your behaviors to get to the goal. And the passive, reactive, condition-dependent approach that has been filling that space in its absence. Right? So a gap between the intentional, active design architecture of daily behavior that the goal requires and the passive, reactive, condition-dependent approach that has been filling that space in its absence. That's the process gap. The good news is that a process gap is not almost, it is the most closable gap that there is. It doesn't require a personality change. It doesn't require, talent you weren't born with. It requires a design session, a protection commitment, and the discipline to run the stack on the days when running it is inconvenient, which is, in the end, the only days that build the habit into something that lasts. So you already have, let me just assure you and remind you that you already have what it takes to go from good to great. You have the vision, you have the desire, you have the capacity, you have what the next level requires. But what it's going to require is the process to carry all of that forward consistently, day after day, in the ordinary moments that no one is going to applaud, by the way, but are going to compound quietly and powerfully into the results that everyone else will eventually notice. Build the process, trust the process, and let the process lead you exactly where the progress is waiting. So thank you guys, for being here today. If this episode gave you something useful, share it with someone who is working hard but maybe feels like they're running in place, because what they may need is not more effort, but better design for the effort they are already giving. Thanks again, you guys, for joining me here on Brewing Success, where growth is the mission, change is the reward, and progress is the goal.